Pretty much every business runs into this problem at some point. A market that seems completely, totally locked. Well, today, we're going to unpack a really powerful and kind of counterintuitive strategy for finding the key. And we're going to do it using a fascinating case study.
It really all boils down to this simple question. When you're standing in front of a locked door, a barrier that's between you and your goal, what's your first instinct? How do you get through it?
Well, for most businesses, the answer is just brute force. You throw money at it, you throw muscle at it, you go out and build new stores, you hire these armies of sales agents, you flood the market with ads. You're basically trying to smash the door down with a battering ram. But here's the thing. What if that door isn't meant to be broken?
And this quote just flips the whole problem on its head. Instead of force, the answer is finesse. See, the solution isn't about building your own way in, it's about finding the people who already hold the keys. This shifts our whole focus from the logistics of goods to something way, way more valuable. Right, and that leads us straight into our big idea for today, the logistics of trust. We're going to explore how to navigate this landscape, and we'll start by looking at two very, very different ways of thinking about entering a new market. So, on one hand, you've got what's called the imperialist reflex. This is the default mode for most companies. You just try to impose your own system onto a new place. But on the other hand, you have the system's architect. Now, instead of imposing, the architect observes. They don't build new roads, they map the ones that are already there, looking for those community gatekeepers to tap into the trust that already exists. Okay, so let's make this real. We're going to jump back to an open innovation challenge from 2010. The mission, sell medical devices in rural India. And as you're about to see, that battering ram approach wasn't just going to be ineffective, it was completely impossible. I mean, just look at these hurdles. The price point had to be incredibly low. The villages themselves were so remote that just sending sales agents out there would cost more than the product itself. And maybe the biggest one of all, there was zero trust. You can't just roll up and sell medical tech to people who have never seen you before. Oh, and to top it all off, this couldn't be a charity project. It had to be a self-sustaining business. Talk about a locked door. So, with the entire traditional sales playbook thrown out the window, the team had to start thinking like a systems architect. They stopped looking at the market in terms of sales and infrastructure, and they started hunting for a social anomaly, something hidden in the data that everyone else had just missed. And this is so important. The breakthrough didn't come from analyzing retail channels or how much people were spending. Nope. It came from looking at the social fabric of the country, at the networks that operate totally outside of any commercial interest. And this is the number they found. 3.3 million. I mean, what on earth could a number that big possibly represent here? Turns out it was the number of active non-governmental organizations, NGOs, in India. An absolutely stunning one NGO for every 400 people. In a lot of areas, there were more NGOs than there were primary schools or health clinics. This was the anomaly. And this just perfectly captures that aha moment. To a normal company, this network was invisible because, it wasn't made of stores or warehouses. But to a systems architect, this was the largest, most effective distribution network on the planet. And its currency wasn't money. It was the one thing the company couldn't buy, pre-existing, deeply embedded trust. So this discovery, it led to a pretty radical new solution, a new model they called the NGO Entry Gate. The idea was to stop trying to build a brand new network and instead just plug into the one that was already there. And the model itself is it's so beautifully simple. First, you treat the NGOs as business partners, not just as charities you donate to. Second, you integrate your product into the health programs they are already running. Think about it. A villager isn't going to trust a salesman in a suit, but they will absolutely trust the community health worker they've known their entire life. And third, you completely change where the money comes from. Now, this whole thing is built on an idea called a social business, which was famously championed by the Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. The goal isn't to pull profits out for shareholders. It's a non-dividend company where all the profits get reinvested right back into the mission. In this case, getting essential medical devices to more and more people. It's a sustainable, mission-driven engine. Okay, and this is the really clever part, the financial pivot. Instead of just burning through a marketing budget on ads that disappear, you use your corporate social responsibility, your CSR budget. That money stops being a cost, it becomes an investment in a social enterprise. A marketing spend is gone the second you spend it, but a social investment is recoverable, it's sustainable, and it does the one thing advertising never could. It builds real, authentic trust.
So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, that's a cool story from 2010 India, but what does it have to do with me today? Well, everything. Because the modern internet has basically become its own version of rural India. It's a vast, fragmented, totally saturated market where everybody is sick of ads and deeply skeptical of strangers trying to sell them something. I mean, the parallels here are they're spot on. The isolated villages of India, those are today's niche online communities on Discord, on Reddit, in specialized newsletters. That deep distrust of the traveling salesman, that's our collective ad blindness and skepticism towards brands. And the local trusted NGO workers, well, they are today's trusted creators, ethical leaders, and community experts who have spent years building real relationships with their audience.
So what does this mean for you? Here's your NGO Entry Gate strategy for the digital world. First, you have to identify the NGOs in your market. Who has already earned the trust that you need? Second, don't just pitch them an ad sponsorship. Propose a real partnership. Ask, how can my product or my expertise genuinely help your community and your mission? And third, rethink your spending. Instead of just buying ads, think about how you can invest in joint projects with these hubs of trust. This really just says it all, doesn't it? Getting a product from a factory to a customer's doorstep has literally never been easier. But getting an idea from your brand into the heart and mind of a skeptical consumer, that is the infernal, hellish challenge of our time. And you can't solve it with a bigger truck or a faster plane. You can only solve it with trust. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about for your own work. Are you still spending all your energy trying to force your way into communities with a battering ram? Or are you taking the time to find, understand, and partner with the people who have already earned the right to open the door from the inside?